Alright, so I want to continue on with our testing phases of our incubator, of how we're going to put this together. Originally we have a piece of heat tape up inside, and what I found with the heat tape was that it wasn't generating enough heat to keep the temperature inside of the incubator stabilized. So basically the temperatures inside would drop down to 80, 82 degrees and take for anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour to 2 hours to 3 hours to heat back up to 90 degrees. I wasn't really happy with that. Like I said in previous videos, we're going to try to do the no substrate method of suspending the eggs over tubs of water. So what I ended up doing as a little test run is I replaced the heat strip with a stovetop heating element. I don't really want to open it up right now, but I'll show you all that later. And I think that's the way that we're going to go with that. Now as you can see, this has been cycling for a couple hours now, and you see there's a lot of condensation building up inside, and hopefully all of that will clear out once this thing completely cycles. You can see a little bit of water. You can't see it, but I can. There's a little bit of water down at the bottom, so we're gonna have to work out that a little bit of kinks there. But what I ended up doing, like I said, is I ended up putting a 6-inch stovetop heating element inside up top there that generates our heat. You see the previous video, we're testing out rectifogger to keep the humidity the way that we want. Now this thing's been running for a couple hours now, and everything has pretty much stabilized out. Hopefully the condensation will go away. But if you look at the fill piece meter, like I said, it's been running for a couple hours, and then once it's stabilized, everything pretty much stays the same. We have 92.5% relative humidity with a temperature of 90 degrees inside, or 90.1. Now the Herbstat 2 is reading 90 degrees with an 80% relative humidity. I don't like the Spider Robotics humidity probe. That is way off. We paid $50 for that thing. This fill piece is roughly about $200 price range. It's designed for the HVAC industry. It's pretty close. It's pretty accurate. And as you can see, our relative humidity in there now is 92.4. It's rising because the Herbstat just kicked on the fogger, and this is only reading 80. So we have a percent variance between 10 and 15. As you can see down in there, this kind of sucks. It's hard to tell, but the Herbstat kicked on both the heating element and the fogger. So we're pretty close though. I mean, with the setup that I have now, I mean, even though it's a beautiful mess, we can fix all that and do some tweaking and get this to where it's supposed to be. So Herbstat 2 saying it's 89.9. You can see it's powering up the heating element in there to get it back up. The field piece is reading 90.3. So the temperature portion of it's pretty good. And then it's saying it's 94.4% relative humidity, but the Herbstat is still showing 80%. So I'm really not liking that. And then I do have some concerns with the condensation that's building up in there. Like I said, it's been running for 2 hours, and there is quite a bit of condensation building up in there. Once we get the whole thing worked out, that rectifogger is going to be coming out of there, and we'll probably just run the tube up from the bottom to go into there. But the ultimate goal of maintaining relative humidity and temperature with the setup that I have now, with the rectifogger in there and the stovetop heating element, it's regulating everything pretty good. Like I said, it's been running for the last 2 hours. I've been keeping an eye on everything, and the temperatures have been fluctuating between 90 and 91, and the relative humidity has been fluctuating between 90 and 95. So with that setup and a little bit of tweaking and a little bit of issues with condensation, I think we can live with that. Okay, so after about 4 or 5 hours of the incubator running with the stovetop heater element inside and the rectifogger inside, if you looked at the previous videos, you see that we had a lot of condensation building up in there, and that has all just about gone after running for about 4 or 5 hours. So I believe just the initial startup is going to create a lot of condensation, but as everything temperatures start to equalize out and humidity starts to equalize out, then all the condensation will go away. Well, I believe you can still probably see a little bit right down in there, and I believe after it continues to run in cycles for several more hours, that all that condensation will be gone. So I'm happy about that. Like I said, it's been running for about 4 or 5 hours. I've been keeping an eye on it, and the temperatures have been stable for the last 4 or 5 hours. It's been right around 90 degrees on the temperature, and between 90 and 95 on the humidity, according to the field piece. I've been coming out every 15-20 minutes checking it. The Herbstat, like I said, that humidity probe from Spider Robotics, I really don't like it. I'll have to do the math difference between like I said, it's about a 10 to 15 degree difference. So we'll have to tweak that, either that or get another humidity sensor for the inside. But the Herbstat's been keeping it regulated 90.3 and 80% relative humidity, which really equates to 91.6. So I believe as long as I keep the probe there and keep it set the way that I have it set and tweak, that it will maintain the temperature and humidity that we want inside. And like I said, for the last 4 or 5 hours it's been maintained, and the longer that it sits here, the more the condensation dries up. That stuff up there is just some sticky tape stuff that we have to get cleaned off. It's where they had a label or something there, and then this sticky part of it, we'll have to get all that cleaned off. But I think this is going to be the way to go. I'm really ecstatic about it. Like I said, we'll do a final video of how it's set up, but as of right now, I didn't like the way the heat tape was generating heat. It was allowing the incubator to cool down too much. The 6-inch stovetop heating element seems to be working pretty good. The Herbstat regulates that thing pretty good. And like I said, in the last hour or so, it's been the last 4 or 5 hours after the initial first hour, everything has been was stabilized. For the last 3 or 4 hours, 4 or 5 hours, it's been stabilized at the 91 to 95% relative humidity and between 90 and 91 on the temperature. Once it's all said and done, like I said, the rectifogger will be coming out. It's doing its job. The rectifogger is probably going to come out, and we're probably going to put it down in the bottom, run the tube up through the floor, and get that all situated, get all our beautiful mess of wires and everything buttoned up and good to go. Testing phase is pretty much done. I've seen all that I need to see on how to put this thing together. Probably when we put all the wires together, we'll due to some condensation that we have, we'll probably button that all up with waterproof wiring and waterproof wing nuts. Alright, so here's the full overview of the finished incubator. We have the Herbstat 2 controlling the 6-inch stovetop heat element, and the rectifogger for humidity. We have that. We're probably going to put a cover over top of these to cover these wires up, but we have that running down through the hole that goes down to the inside of there. All of our wiring and everything is concealed behind that panel. Underneath that panel, we have our humidity probe and our temperature probe. The stovetop heat element sits up underneath here. We still have our lights. Turn our lights on. Turn the lights off. Now all the wiring for this thing runs up through the original chase that came up through the side here, underneath, upside, and comes into the top part here, and that's where all our wiring goes, through that chase that's already on the inside. You see the rectifogger's on. We're going to do the no substrate method of incubating our eggs. Suspend them over water, open tubs. That's why we have the fogger. And then at the bottom, you just pull this little plate off, and we have access to our rectifogger. And that's the finished product. So there you have it. Put that back on there. Like I said, we're probably going to end up putting a vent fan or exhaust fan for any excess heat. But when this thing was put together, like I said, everything's there. It's holding the temperature and relative humidity right where we want it at. And that's how we built our incubator.